My paper review for the optimization course, and the topic of the paper is Hogwild, a lock-free approach to parallelizing stochastic gradient descent. So in this review I have used two resources. One is this PPT and other one is this blog that I have written. So the first question that came to our mind is, what are optimization techniques? Let me show you through an example. Let's say I want to find the minimum value of this function. So I will differentiate this function. This is what I will get if I differentiate this function, and I will equate it to 0. Now getting the solution of that equation is very difficult. So what optimization techniques are? They propose us a way to iteratively solve these problems. So in these, we first assume an initial solution, and then step by step we will move closer to our actual solution. And if any time we feel we are close enough, we will just stop there. The techniques implementing this idea are called optimization techniques. So optimization techniques, as they are iterative, can easily be programmed into computers. Now in optimization there is a very famous algorithm called gradient descent. So I will explain gradient descent to you. Let's say this is the function that I have, and I want to find the minimum value of this function, that is I want to reach this point. So a basic strategy is that at any point I will start moving in the negative of gradient direction, and if I keep continuing this, then eventually I am going to reach the minimum. This technique is called gradient descent technique, and this technique works very well for convex function. In each step we are just subtracting our actual value with the value in the direction of negative gradient. Now this technique is good, but there is one problem with this gradient descent technique. Let me show you through an example. Let's say my objective function is something like this, that I am summing I equal to 1 to n, and this squared loss function. Now if I differentiate it, I will get something like this. So to calculate derivative at a point x, I need to sum from I equal to 1 to n, and in machine learning there can be millions of points, so I have to sum over all of those million points to get the derivative. So computing this derivative is very costly. So what we do is we do a simple hack, that is we sample some p points from the data and update our gradients with respect to only those p points. This p is called batch size, and this algorithm is called batch SGD, or simply an SGD. So as SGD is a good algorithm, it will help us to reduce the time required for calculating the derivative. There are some problems even in the SGD, stochastic gradient descent. So one problem is that it is inherently serial in nature. What I mean by that for calculating W3, first I need to get W2. For calculating W2, first I need to get W1, and there is no way that I can parallelize this scheme. Okay, so this SGD is a serial algorithm, but if I really want to use all the cores of my system, that I need some mechanism so that I can parallelize this SGD. So there were some mechanism before the Hogwild, namely master worker, round robin, average runs, average gradients. There can be others, but in all those schemes there are two problems. One, they require locking, and second, they require communication between different processors, and requiring locking can take huge amount of time sometimes, and even synchronization can also take some time. For example, in master worker, one processor is given the charge to update the decision variable, and all other processors are used to compute the gradient. So there is a communication between all these, from worker to master or master to worker. Similarly, in round robin, when one processor updates the decision variable, it had to tell all other processor that I have updated this function. So these two, locking and synchronization, reduce the performance or the speed up or decreases the speed of the algorithms. So there is a need of algorithm which is asynchronous. That means it does not require communication between different cores or different processor, and it's lock free in nature. So what the author suggests is, let's just simply remove locks and cut communication. So at first it might seem a very bad idea, because there will be collisions, overwriting between different processors. But what the author observed is, if our data is sparse, that means most of the entries does not exist or zero, then only a part of data is responsible for only a part of updation in the decision variable. That is, for a part of decision variable, only a part of data is responsible for updating it. And this idea is called Hog-Wild algorithm, in which we remove locks and we cut communication between the cores or the processors. So I have explained to you why we need parallelization and what were the other algorithms present and what are the problems in them. But I have defined this notion of sparsity. Now the big question is, how can we quantify sparsity? Because the more the sparse is our data, the better is our Hog-Wild algorithm is perform on that. So to quantify sparsity, we use hypergraph. In this hypergraph, each vertex is each unit of memory of the data, and each edge of this graph is all those vertices that are coupled together, so that they are used in updating a particular part of this whole objective function. You understand? Like, in objective functions, there are some parts which depends on particular data. When we couple these data, we got edges for our hypergraph. And now we define our statistics. First one is maximum edge size, that is the maximum edge size in this graph. Maximum degree is called delta, and maximum edge degree is called rho. And the equations for these two are, mathematically these are the equations, but on geometrically these are maximum edge size, maximum degree, and maximum edge degree. Now you may ask that, what if our data is not sparse? What if every problem we see does not have sparse data? So I will present you 2 or 3 examples which will tell you which will are famous and have very sparse data. The first one is matrix completion problems. We all know Netflix. Now Netflix has users in millions, and movies are also in, let's say, millions. So imagine a data matrix where each row is each user number and each column is movie 1, movie 2, movie 3 up to movie n. And each entry, let's say this entry is 4, that means user 1 give a rating of 4 to the movie 1. Now it is not possible for a user to watch all this movie. In fact, it is going to be a matrix where most of the entries are 0 or not a number. So this type of data matrix is extremely sparse in nature, and we use matrix completion algorithm to fill all these entries. And by filling all these entries, Netflix gives us the recommendation for the next movie we want to watch. So matrix completion, although there are other uses of matrix completion, like it is also used in clustering, but in Netflix, these things, matrix completion algorithm is used to give recommender systems, and these data metrics are extremely sparse in nature. Another example is sparse support vectors. You know, the first email spam detector, how did they work? Let's say I have a big set E where I have the text for email 1, email 2, email 3 up to email M, and now this M can be very large as the number of emails that we have can be very large. Now let us find the all the unique words in this entire set E. Now this n is again going to be very large, even in trillions. Now we form our data matrix, like E1, E2 are the emails, and W1, W2, W3 are all the unique words. This entry 1 means that in email 1 word 1 occurs one time. This entry means that in email 2 word 1 occurs 2 times. So this whole matrix is going to be very sparse, because these are like trillions of columns, and an email can have at most 100 or 200 words. So this vectorization scheme is also called bag of words. And if we use a classifier to classify these emails as spam or not spam, then this algorithms helps us to find the spam detectors. And what if we use support vectors, then it is called sparse support vector problems. And another one is like graph cut, that is used in image segmentation. Now for all these problems that I have defined above, matrix, SVM problems, graph cut problems, the value of these three matrices is very small. And smaller these values, that means there is more sparsity, and more the sparsity, the better is our algorithm Hogwild is going to perform on these problems. Now let me officially define the Hogwild algorithm. It is a very simple algorithm, has only 3 steps. Okay, and this is the notation version of this algorithm with respect to hypergraph. So first we sample edges E from our hypergraph. Then we read only the current state corresponding to the current function. As we know that due to sparsity, that data is localized in terms of that a local data is responsible for changing only a local part of decision variable. And after reading this value, we update that value using stochastic gradient descent rule. Now this Hogwild algorithm also has one assumption, that we must be able to add 2 variables atomically, that means in single cycle. And this is a standard instruction set found in most of the systems, even in our Intel systems. And the issues of this algorithm can be that the processor can overwrite each other works, or the updates we are doing can be old updates. So before I talk about the performance of this Hogwild algorithm, let me just recapitulate. First we define what are optimization technique. These are iterative ways to finding the minimum of a function. Second, we define what is gradient descent. It is a technique where we just start moving in the negative direction of the gradient. Then we have defined stochastic gradient descent, in which we are not actually calculating the whole gradient, but we are calculating the gradient with respect to only p points. Then we defined that stochastic gradient descent has a problem, that it is a serial algorithm. So we look for parallel algorithms, but most of these parallel algorithms have locking and synchronization, which reduces the performance. So we propose a new algorithm called Hogwild algorithm, which is we remove locks and cut the communication between the processor. And this Hogwild algorithm works very well in sparse data. Then I have shown you with data matrices that there are some famous examples where the data is extremely sparse, like in the Netflix recommender system, where we have shown that this data matrix is going to be very sparse. And also in the text classification using support vector machine, this data is also going to be very sparse. Then we have shown what is a Hogwild algorithm. It is just we are using only a local part of the data to update a local part of the optimization function. And now let's talk about the speed related aspects or the performance related aspects. So there are 2 ways to study the speed related aspects of this Hogwild algorithm. First one is theoretical. In theoretical, so this is like seems very complex. It is just basically these are some assumptions, like strictly convex function, and the update size must be less than a value m, and this And a good way to visualize this is, if we put my rho or delta to 0, then this whole will going to perform like a serial algorithm. And even if so, delta is equal to delta rho equal to 0, that means the hypergraph that we have seen was completely disconnected. Even if they are not 0 but close to 0, still we are getting speed ups. And intuitive way to see the speed or the performance is that now we are having more number of updates to do, because we are updating only a part of function corresponding to some local part of data, but at the same times we are now using multiple processors to do these tasks independently without locking each other. So these two combination give rise to increase in the performance. And what the theory suggests us, we are even getting more performance in actual simulations that we have run. Let's compare our algorithms with other algorithms. So I have taken two algorithms, round robin and AIG. So a round robin algorithm, theory suggests that it should have a linear time complexity, but in practice, due to the communication between the processors, it performance decreases. And similarly, AIG algorithm is just like Hog-Wild algorithm, but it still locks the memory that associated with the one edge of the hypergraph. Still, because only of that locking, its performance is way low than the Hog-Wild algorithm. Here are the three graphs which corresponding to the three situations that we have studied earlier. Now, one thing you note, that in this graph there is some problem. Okay, the number of splits here is like the number of the processors or the number of cores. One thing you observe, that in this, after some time it is going to get parallel to the x-axis, that is, the speed up is going to constant even though we are increasing the number of splits or the number of processors. And the reason for it, because our algorithm is not very well aware of the locality of the data. So a further suggestion to this algorithm is that we can make our algorithm perform even better if we make it more aware of the locality of the data. So this way I have presented this whole paper.